After being a writer for quite a number of years, one begins to doubt one's identity, and the existence that you have left appears to be that of only on paper. So I was very pleased to have this opportunity to come and visit various schools, Wallace Hall Academy in Thornhill, Dumfries Academy, which in fact was my old school, and also St Joseph's. And to this end, I spent a few days reading and talking with various pupils at these schools, and we have ended up with this. I shall show you glittering stones. I shall show you glittering stones and creatures tamed by cruelty. I shall say that they are formed of light and darkness, part image and part shadow of yourself and myself. And then you will become a forest or a lake, or look lovingly at me through a woman's eyes. I shall tell you that the sky is the underbelly of a crouched animal. I shall tell you that it tunneled once upon a time into the daylight, and that it stayed there, tense and afraid. Then we will become whatever our embrace can liken to ourselves, and to that creature as it turns upon us. Sometimes when you write poems, you just get an idea, and you feel sort of like you're inspired, you know, and you're just kind of filled with this idea, and you write it down, and you work at it, and you work at it, and you work at it. And you don't necessarily know what it is you're writing about. It's like almost as if you're having a dream and trying continuously to describe the dream. But, you know, when you're trying to tell someone what your dream was like, you say, you know, I was on a bus and I was walking down the road, and someone goes, oh yeah? And you say, yeah, but it was really exciting. And you say, okay, so you're on a bus and you're going down the road, but it was exciting. And you say, yeah, that's the idea. And the thing is that the quality about a dream is that its atmosphere is what charges it, is what makes it so mysterious. And that atmosphere is something that you just cannot kind of get over when you're describing a dream. You know, I mean, there's nothing more interesting than your own dreams, and nothing more boring than somebody else's. And yet your dreams really are kind of interesting, and it's because of this atmosphere. And I think the same thing is sometimes when I'm trying to write a poem, is that what I'm trying to get at is a kind of atmosphere that I can feel. And I keep putting the words down, you know, but somehow I don't get the atmosphere right, and I just keep going and keep going. So I don't necessarily think about it in terms of what it means, what the words mean. I don't, for example, have a picture of stones that are glittering and someone to whom I'm showing them. It's more the sound. I shall show you glittering stones. And in that there's a rhythm. And there's also a series of essays and, you know, alliteration and such, and consonants and so on that are there. And these I then work on. I'm working on sound rather than sense. And I hope that eventually I'll end up with something that makes sense, though it doesn't always. I found actually very quickly when I was in London that my Scottish identity, which I didn't even realise I had, kind of became very prominent. Because every time I spoke to someone, they always asked me to repeat what I'd said. You know, they said, what are you saying, Jock? You know, and then I realised, in fact, I had a Scottish accent, which I didn't realise at all. And so I began to realise that I missed a lot of things in Scotland. And occasionally when I was up, it was really good to suddenly start hearing people speaking in Scots accents again. And I think it was a kind of mixture of homesickness, perhaps, and also becoming aware of living in another country that I wrote. The first few poems I wrote were in English, because all the poems I'd ever seen were written in English. And then I began to write poems in Scots. It's not particularly... Scots is just a language that you speak. I mean, whether you know it or not, you don't speak English. You go down to England and there are lots of words that you'll use that people won't understand. I mean, even simple words like a pinky for your small finger, I mean, that's a different word in England. I mean, there's lots and lots of different words. I mean, I don't even half the time know if a word is Scots or if it's English, except that once I'm down in London, people ask me to repeat it. So this is a poem that I wrote in Scots. Party Piece it's called. Greta Garbo gies me my tequila neat. We've run out of sot, he says. And then there's a blast of hell's heat and angels whimmling always. I'm settled with a bottle when Greta's sister's mouth asks where the hell I've been. The perty sterty lang sin she's druth and would I mind. She sits down. Mozart drones out 50s rock through the next room. There's a bit talk with Greta's sister about school days. And soon the music stops, the record clicks, and time itself sticks as yon angel tacks off another's clays. She's leering lovely wi' her een. Play us another tune, she says, and run gans Hendrix a month afore he's deein', Butlin angels always. And it's all whummlin' run my head, this rummelin' spate o' heaven and hell, while deils and angels turn instead to burnt out stars, lang sin deed, and drifting helpless as mysel. Sometimes when you write, you know, I mean, I write a lot, but you don't always have ideas. It's not a case you wake up every morning and think, oh great, I'm going to write a poem about the futility of human endeavour this morning, or I'm going to write a poem about eating. You know, you don't always get ideas. And one of the things that I do when I haven't got any ideas of what to write about is that I quite often try and do translations. Because there someone else has sort of got an idea, and what I do is sort of start off with that idea, and it kind of just gets me going, as it were. It's a way of getting started. And but the translations that I do have very little to do with the original, and they end up very much as poems that I've written myself. So we'll look at one of the translations that are there. Now these will be the poems from Chinese. Winter Landscape. Birds leave no track across 1,000 hills. Men's journeyings are obliterated across 1,000 paths. But look at this solitary boat and this solitary old man. He is wearing a rain-cloth of grass and a hat of bamboo. He is fishing as the river freezes over. Reply from the mountains. You ask when I shall come home, and I must reply that I do not know. It is autumn in the mountains of Sichuan. The rain falls steadily night after night, and the river rises. When shall we blow out our bedside candle, then talk of the mountains of Sichuan? I must reply that I do not know, for the rain is falling steadily and the river is rising. Lament by the River. I am an old man from Shaolin, and I must weep silently. It is a beautiful spring day, yet I have come here in secret. The palace and its 1,000 doors are locked. Willow branches are tangled with debris which no one clears. The water reeds have grown green and straight, yet no one gathers them. I remember when the imperial banners were held high. The slightest wind shaking them shook their colours against the colours of the grass and trees where the warriors marched in the South Park. The Emperor's lady remained indoors. Unless ceremony demanded, she accompanied her lord to wait upon him herself. Ladies in waiting would walk before them, their waists wound tightly with girdles to carry weaponry. The royal chariot was drawn by white horses harnessed in leather traces decked in silver work, and they bit into bridles of yellow gold. There was no word of command, and yet as one the ladies in waiting would arch back their slender bodies, bending their bows back to look up, to aim, to send an arrow straight, to bring down a fluttering bird. But nothing remains now, neither brilliance, nor loveliness, nor grace. The ghosts of dead men cannot rest and cannot return. We are trapped here. We wait and hear nothing. We cannot speak and our hearts are breaking. I sit and watch helplessly as the river flows on and the river flowers bloom. It is evening. The city is filthy with the dirt kicked up by their Tartar cavalry galloping full tilt through our streets. I would journey south to make my escape, but I know I must look to the north to be set free. So, I mean, the idea is that we'll look at, we'll start off with, we'll say it's 1, 2 players, right? And then we'll look at it, can read it, then I'll read it aloud. And then we can maybe just talk about it and try and work out what it might possibly mean, if anything, and just various points that you'd want to make about it. But one thing I want to make clear is that I don't necessarily have like one vision of what this poem's about. You know, there's lots and lots. I think there's as many different poems as there are people that read them. And I mean, even when I read a poem for the second or third time, it quite often feels as if I'm reading a completely different poem, you know, because I'm more aware of it than I was, say, when I read it the first time. And so it almost seems like a different poem. There's much more in it that I can understand. So I think that, I don't think there's any kind of one interpretation of a poem. So I would just try and, we can look at it and then try and work out what it might mean, you know, for you and what you think it might mean, and then maybe talk about it a bit more generally. And then I'll put in my tuppence-worth and we'll see how it goes. Okay? So if you just read it through just now, we'll do the 1 and 2 players first of all. 2 players who have made up so often their faces seem to shine with love, approach each other in the palace gardens. Something has been arranged. Orpheus begins to charm his way once more with a clear conscience and a song. Eurydice trails behind, stumbling among the props and deafening effects, the stones, the wheels, the hiss of accusation and desire. Orpheus makes his way towards the wings without a backward glance. He sings of love, truth and beauty. Though the palace is only 3 months old, Eurydice feels its pillars buckling at a touch. She can see the tiled floor crack at each step and the colours drain away. Offstage peacocks scream, or seem to. She has nothing to say. With each lighting change, a host of shadows lunge and swoop around her, parodying large her exquisite and mute anxieties. Until the very last moment, Orpheus acts without hesitation, and he mimes perfectly whatever he leaves unsung. The shadows slide into each other voluptuously. Which of these lovers will lead him out of hell? And then he turns to kiss Eurydice goodbye.